So now we're going to look at solving multi-step inequalities. Solving inequalities is the same as solving equations, except for when we multiply or divide by a negative number. So when I multiply or divide by a negative number, and that is going to make me reverse my inequality symbol. So let's do a few of these. So we'd still really be going through our steps of our equations foldable, and you'll notice I'm starting you off with some of the simpler types of inequalities. So this first one, all I'm doing is subtracting 9, so we're going to add 9 to both sides. So that gives me x. I bring down my inequality. X is less than 19. So did I multiply or divide by a negative? Nope. So I solve it just like an equation. Looking at the next one, I have a times -2, undo multiplication with division. So that's going to give me a on the left and -2 on the right. But since I divided both sides by a negative, instead of a greater than, this is going to be a less than. It reverses my inequality symbol. So now we're going to do some that are two-step equations. So this first one, we're going to add 4 to both sides. So -3k less than or equal to 18. So -3 times k, we're going to undo with division. So that leaves me with k on the left, -6 on the right. But since I did divide by a negative, I need to reverse my inequality symbol. So now it's a greater than or equal to. First step in the next problem, we need to subtract 2 from both sides. So 5k less than or equal to -10. And then we're going to divide by 5. So I get k and -2. Now, did I multiply or divide by a negative? No, I divided by a positive. So that means my symbol will stay the same. So it's not about whether your number that you end up with in your answer is negative or positive. It's about whether what you divided by was negative or positive. So at any point, if you want to try these on your own, you're more than welcome to pause and then go through and check your answers. So we'll add 4 here. 3x is less than 6. And divide by 3. Since I divided by a positive number, I leave my inequality alone. The next one, we kick it up a notch. We got some fractions. So my first step is to add 7 to both sides. So 1/2 x is greater than -1. And now you have a couple options. You could divide by that 1/2. I don't like dividing by fractions. So I always start with multiplying by my denominator. So my denominator here is 2. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. And what that does is it leaves me with my numerator as my coefficient. In this case, it's just 1, so that's a little silly. 1x is greater than -2. So do I really need to do anything now? Nope. Because I just had a coefficient of 1. Now we're going to get into a few more complicated examples. So this one, we have parentheses, so my first step is going to be to distribute. So 2 times 5x is 10x, 2 times -3 is -6. Copy down the rest. And now I'm back to a two-step equation. So when you get x by itself, we'll add 6 to both sides. 10x is greater than or equal to 20. We'll divide by 10. So x is greater than or equal to 2. Nothing funny going on in this problem, so we move on with our life. This next one is one of my favorite questions for us to do. I would like you to read this equation in your head. Hopefully you're saying 8. Okay, did you say -8? No, you said 8. So that's a positive 8 there. How do I undo that positive 8? I'm going to subtract 8. I say that because this minus right here sometimes throws people off in terms of whether they want to add or subtract. But we need to subtract 8, and that leaves me with negative 3x is less than or equal to 9. Now we're going to divide both sides by negative 3. Now, since I divided by a negative number, that reverses my inequality. So now it's going to be a greater than or equal to. So we have a similar setup in this question. What kind of 12 is that? That's a positive 12. So I'm going to undo that by subtracting. So negative 2/3 x greater than negative 6. So at this point, because I have a coefficient again, there's two ways to do this. I could multiply by the reciprocal. Remember, reciprocal means that you flip the fraction. So I could multiply by negative 3/2. I don't like multiplying or dividing by fractions, so I like to clear my denominator. So I want to multiply both sides by 3. But I'm also going to tell you from my experience, let's go ahead and get rid of that negative. I just pinky promise people like to forget that negative in the next step. So I'm going to multiply by negative 3. So these negatives are going to cancel, and that leaves me with 2x on the left side. Oops, what did I do wrong? If I multiply by a negative, we're going to need to switch that inequality to be a less than. Negative 6 times negative 3 is 18. And my last step is going to be to divide by 2. So x is less than 9. Now, if you want to do the multiplying by the reciprocal thing, so if I'm starting at this step, then this is what it would look like. Whoop. So I would get x, since I multiplied by a negative, it would be changing to less than, and then you're needing to multiply fractions, which is why I don't really like doing this way. So that would give me negative 6 times negative 3 is 18 over 1 times 2 is 2. You might see the connection here. That's the same process we had right there. So it's mathematically the same thing. Do what makes you happy. I like to get rid of my denominator. All right, last one. So no parentheses, so no distributing. I do have an x on both sides, so personally I like to move so I don't end up with a negative. So that would mean for me subtracting 12 from both sides. You could subtract 14. That's going to give me negative 6 is greater than or equal to 14 minus 12x. That's going to be 2x. And now I'm down to 2 steps. So we're going to start with adding 2. It is greater than or equal to 2x. And now we're going to divide by 2. Negative 2 is greater than or equal to x. If I wanted to write that with x on the left side, what I'm going to do is go in reverse. So that would be x. And then if you see how I have the pointy part of the inequality is closest to the x, so I'm going to keep the pointy part close to the x and then put the negative 2. So basically, if I switch the sides of where my x and my number are, I need to also switch my inequality. And some of you might have been taught to always move x to the left. At this stage, it really doesn't matter.